Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot, CEO of the experience agency D Flash. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series where I get to interview a phenomenal Black woman a day for Black History Month. This episode is awesome because I've got the wonderful Esosa Ighodaro, who is the co-founder of Nextstar and Black Women Talk Tech, a fantastic organization that I'm super proud to be a part of. We'll talk about her journey, how she got here, what she's up to now, this conference she has coming up this week, and a lot more. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Esosa.
Hey, Laura.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super glad to have you on the show. It's only taken like 3 years to get you on the show.
I'm excited to be here. I'm chosen to get on the show.
You've had a steady invitation for years, but what else? So, as you know from the show, we always ask the same first question. I'm really fascinated to see what your answer is going to be. So, what was your first job?
So my first job, oddly enough, was I was an intern on the trading floor of JP Chase, which was very unique because I was like the only 15-year-old on the floor. The way I scored that job, though, was through a training program called I Have a Dream. And it was a program that was focused on inner city youth and getting them real world job opportunities. And they gave you a scholarship to go to college. And so I applied, got in, and was really excited to kind of be thrusted into the world of business and banking, which at the time, early on,
15.
I was,
At 15.
At 15, I know. And, that was an interesting space for me because I wanted to really change the world in a unique way through finance and banking and figuring out how to help people financially make money and grow it in some way. And so it led me to my first idea of creating a teenage bank because my first check, right? I get my first check. I was hype. I was like, yes, my first check. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do what people do. They go to the bank, they put it in the account. And I try to deposit I opened an account. They're like, where's your mom or dad? And I was like, oh no, don't worry. I got a job. So see, I could do it myself. And they're like, no, you need an adult in order to open an account. And I was like, oh, that's all right. I'll just go to the next one who respects my money. Okay. So that day, I went to like 5 other banks. They all told me the same thing. I was furious. Like I was like so angry. So what I ended up doing is like I made this document, this PowerPoint, because that's what you do, and got a chance to pitch it to some of the execs at JP Chase to try to kind of see if they can create this like new bank for teenagers, so that I can hide my money from my parents because they would take it from me. So, and
this is all because you just didn't want your parents to know you had any money. Gotcha. Okay.
Pretty much. Because I have African parents, so it's like, oh, this means I will take this for you, and you will get it in form of shelter, food, and clothes. So nothing extra. So I was trying to, save it, but I got a chance to present it anywho to these execs, and they all politely said it was a great idea. Congratulations on coming up with it. The only reason why there aren't any teenage banks is because you can't be charged with fraud under the age of 16. And so that's why you can't actually, they're like all these things of why people like banks don't typically open up accounts for folks under the age of 18 or so. So I was like,
this explains everything about you. Being that I actually know you, now it all makes perfect sense.
Yeah, man, I was born this way, man. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. But yeah, that was my first job, and random story that I didn't know I was going to tell today.
But again, it's fascinating. I mean, it is really fascinating because literally everyone I've had in the show, the job they mention as their first job always correlates to what they do now in some way, shape, or form. And obviously, this totally correlates to you because you saw a problem and you wanted to fix it, so you made a plan and you fixed it.
Yes, at
Um,
least trying to.
trying to.
That's it, yeah.
Which goes into like, what is it you actually do now? How are we sitting here chatting, Esosa?
Yes. So I run two businesses. One is called Nextstar. Nextstar is a platform that allows Fortune 1000 brands and companies in the beauty, travel and leisure, and food space to connect with influencers to do huge, amazing campaigns on social media. So from anything from like wanting to kind of get us like a new launch out, or you want to join a certain part of the conversation that eventually gets you new customers or new leads. We help you match the right type of influencers for brands, because you can finally know ahead of time some of the data you're looking for. So if you see an influencer has like 100,000 followers and they're looking to target females between 18 and 25, but this influencer, you can't really tell if they have that type of target demographic, or if they have most of the content or visual pleasing way of connecting matches with your brand, right? Your tone, the voice, and all that jazz. We are using machine learning to be able to do that at scale. So the next time you do your 200-person influencer campaign, you can do that with ease on our platform to manage the workflow. Right now, most agencies or companies at large are using Excel, and that is a horror. So you can do contracts, you can pay directly through the platform. Everything is managed, source images, everything in one place. And so that's Nextstar.
Awesome.
And with Black Women Talk Tech is my second company. And what we do, our mission is to help identify, support the next Black woman to create billion-dollar enterprises. And part of the genesis of that story started out when my first business, Cosign, I struggled incredibly to kind of run fundraise or find the right talent, get into the right social circles to really grow and scale that company. And we ended up pivoting to Nextstar, and now it's a lot easier. But I would say all those struggles are really lonely. And I think building a community of like-minded individuals that have the same kind of demographic makeup as you kind of helps you know that you're not alone, and kind of helps you navigate the world as you try to build and scale this company. And so we started that about 3 years ago, and we're about to do our fourth annual conference next week, Thursday.
And we'll be putting all the information in the show notes about how awesome Black Women Talk Tech is, and so you can get your tickets. And it's a really phenomenal organization. So full disclosure, I sit on the board of Talk Tech Association. And I'm honored to be a part of this organization because what you ladies have been able to achieve in under 5 years is phenomenal. And your future's so bright. It's unbelievable.
Oh, thank you.
So I'll be nice there. See.
Thank you.
So building two businesses. What the heck has that been like?
Definitely a challenge for sure. I would say the hardest part for me is just being able to manage my time effectively and finding the right talent to manage all the different things of both businesses. And that's definitely been one of the challenges, and it's still a work in progress. It's gotten better, but as soon as you figure out how to get it done, new challenges arise. Okay. And I think your ability to be able to keep an open mind, know the answer is coming to you, and to be able to deal with problem solving, you'll be in a good shape moving forward. But I learned so much in terms of one feeding into the other. It's incredible what you learn just by what one business would teach you that you're like, I got to do this in the other one. So there are some really good benefits.
Awesome. And it's funny because like obviously I know your story, but you originally were in the finance business and then you were like, I gotta do something.
Yeah, I was so when I graduated college, Temple University, go Owls. I decided that I really wanted to, impact the world of finance because I was like, this is where I can make the most impact and help people's lives, because I always wanted to impact and help people, but just not like a doctor because, hospitals weren't for me. But like, I was like, but there are other ways to help you. Right. And so I was like, how else would I make a difference? And I thought it would be in the wonderful world of, finance and banking. Because if you know how to manage your money and you get enough of it and you manage it well, you can have a better quality of life. Right. And so I'm like, okay, health is wealth, but so is money. So I'm like, okay, how do I do this? So I graduated and got accepted into a management associate program with Citigroup. And that was a fancy title for saying rotational program for 2 years, where you got to bounce around from department to department and learn like essentially the craft. They would invest in you and hopefully you would one day be the managing director of one of their big head departments. That was the goal, right? And so we would go, and I really fell in love with actually retail banking because it's the first thing I knew about, banks, right? Banks are, I don't know, I had some fascination with banks. So I was like, okay, how do you run a bank, right? And so I took on the role of managing two branches, one in Brooklyn and one in the city. Um, I'm sorry, no, one in Brooklyn. They're both in Brooklyn. I did a stint in the city, but it was an incredible experience. And then one day I was like, I woke up one day and I was like, man, I feel like I know everything I could know about this. What else could I be doing? And I was just so there was some idea of thought around not being stuck into one category. I felt like, I've been in banking for a while. At this point, I left the retail bank and went to bank back office and started working with credit card services. And supported over 24 million credit cards, and getting folks to, you know, um, bank and bank with us and have their credit cards with us. But the hard part, I was just kind of like, I kind of feel a little bored now. So what can I do that's a little bit more challenging and could do more impact? Because even though I was servicing 24 million people, it was like 24 signatures to move 1 inch to the left. So the amount of bureaucracy and autonomy you had was very limited. So I wanted to figure out what can I do that is, boundless in a way. And I found a friend of mine whose name is Moyo. He used to work at Microsoft, and then he left his job to do this like app thing. And this was like in 2011 or 12. And I was like, what you're doing apps? You left your, $250,000 to do apps? And he was like, yeah, it's incredible over here. I was like, oh, I need to figure out what that is. So the long story short, I ended up convincing him to teach a class on app making or reskinning, and which is a term where you just buy a basic code and just color it differently and sell it in the app store. And this is a time where it was like, oh my gosh, there's an app for that, for everything, and people were actually buying for the first time digital products as part of their games. And I thought that was so fascinating. And so I ended up reskinning two apps and launching them in the app store. And that's how I got started into technology. But then I realized, I love shopping. And I would constantly go on social media wanting to know what the products were when I saw an influencer or someone. It's like, I want to know those shoes, I want to know whatever. And so that what was the genesis for my actual second idea, which is Cosign, to make items shoppable on social media in 2013. So I was way ahead of my time here. And started off with that business before I ended up finally, gradually getting to um, Nextstar, where we are now. So it's definitely been an interesting path and journey, like a lot of zigzags, a lot of unique ways of doing things. So super, super exciting.
Awesome. So tell me about a time in your career where it was like super challenging and how you were able to get through it.
Man, like I don't even know.
You know, it's every day.
I mean, like I was like Tuesday. Like I mean, there's like there are many challenges, but let me not scare people who hear this podcast. Like there are many advantages to challenges, right? Because these are like mini lessons and things you go through so that you can get on top. And then if you see them come in other ways and forms, you know what to do next, right? Such is life. But I would say one of the hardest challenges I went through was fundraising. Because one thing that was funny that I like a lot of people chuckle and I do too. When I left Citibank, I finally decided to leave Citibank and go after Cosign full time. And went in 2014, and when I was doing that, I thought fundraising was going to be my easiest thing. Like I'll fundraise in 3 months and I'll get started. I thought the harder thing was like, getting brands on board and getting all these different folks to interact with each other in this unique way. That was actually the easy part. I got 1,200 brands on the platform rather easily in the first couple of months. I I got a bunch of influencers on the platform, about 5,000 within the first month. And it was really easy for me to get those folks, but I couldn't, no matter what, for the life of me, get someone to give me a check. I thought it was going to be a lot easier because I was like, I know a ton of people with money. They
Mhm.
work at the banks, they, did all these things. And then when I asked them or presented them with this idea, it turns out they have a lot of plans for their money than to give it to me. So
Yeah.
I had to come up with other ways of making money, right? And so what I started out doing early on, and I was like, I mean, in my 20s, I was a beast mode type of person. Like, so I would constantly I would pitch at different competitions. I've won over 100,000 in pitch competitions and certain prizes and services. In the early days, I did a what do you call it? A Kickstarter campaign, raised over 40,000 on that pitch competition. I mean, that actual Kickstarter campaign. And as a result of that Kickstarter campaign, I got a lot of interest from actual investors. And so I ended up raising an additional $90,000 outside of that competition. And then I ended up doing trying to figure out how to get grants, like you name it. I was looking for other ways to pump money into my business. I was constantly trying to figure out ways to like be able to payroll these developers so that I can get to the next level of my business. And so I think that was really a challenge. But then I think what helped me the most in trying to raise my friends and family round is that I came up with a strategy of like helping, getting my best advocates and people who were super excited about the idea to bring their friends, right? So I had a deal with one of my first investors, um, to come up with a strategy to literally incentivize them. It's like, I will give you more equity if you get some of her friends to invest. And so that ended up giving me an additional 70 to 90,000 as well. So I ended up, raising about $250,000 through my friends and family as a result of it. It did take about 2 years, but to get that first leap. But I definitely was a challenge. But I came up with I was all over the place trying to figure out how we gonna get this money. And so that was a big lesson that I was able to kind of overcome by trying to figure out ways to either strengthen my pitch or find people to actually advocate on my behalf, whether I'm in the room or not. And then that really helped a lot.
Awesome. So what would you probably tell 25-year-old Esosa, looking back on what you've gone through in the last, 10, 12 years?
25-year-old Esosa, man, what was I? Oh, my favorite year was 24. I was on top of the world. That's my favorite year. But at 25, I was still on top of the world. So I would tell my 25-year-old self to, take more risk. Because at the time, I moved from so I'm one of those people who I planned my life to 70. And part of the plan,
wow.
and part of the plan was just to work at Citi for just 3 years or so. And then, so I know how to, how what's an example of what kind of manager I would be, and, or, leadership styles. I wanted to kind of see that in people. And I ended up staying there for 7. And so I was just man, I think I was just, the money spoiled me because at 24, 6 months before I turned 25, I got a 50% raise in salary. So that put me, nicely in the 6 figures. And then I just joined my first board. So I was I felt like I was giving back. And then I was trying to figure out this business idea that I would do. And I think the one thing I would say was stop shopping so much to save more money. And then also take more risks. I think I wasn't prepared to just tinker a little bit more. I was just oh, wow, there's so much money you could get. So just stay here a little bit, right? And not be afraid to do things on the side. I wish I was doing more of the side hustle thing while I was working.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot more time and space and energy to do that than now. I'm exhausted. If I can get it out before this time period, I'm excited. But yeah, that would probably be my advice to my 25-year-old self.
Awesome. So, okay, we're now in early 2020. What is next for you?
Oh my gosh. I know. So I am so excited to take these 2 businesses to the next level. I'm actually also tinkering now with another idea to see if I can add a 3rd one on there. Why not? And manage them all. But I really, really am excited about just, having the world see Nextstar and Black Women Talk Tech and really grow internationally a little bit more, especially with Black Women Talk Tech. Now that we're in 10 cities across the 9 cities across the country, and then 1 in London. So we're in 10 local markets, and wanting to, really do a large launch for Nextstar this year. And so I'm really excited about the possibilities and opportunities for folks to join us.
Awesome. And so you have all this stuff you're doing. You're so busy. What is your self-care routine? Because how does Esosa take care of Esosa?
Oh my gosh. I was just going to ask you that same question. I don't know. I'm not doing a great job with self-care. I will say that I am not the best steward of taking care of myself as much as I should. I
Mhm.
think this year is a little different. For me, where I really like made it a New Year's resolution to really like take some time in investing in myself. So whatever self care means to you, and so for me, I wanted to go, have an executive coach, see someone about you as an entrepreneur and leader, you're always showing up for everyone and making sure they're fine. But sometimes it's hard when you don't show up for yourself so that you can be the best leader you can for them as well, and for you. So I think that was an investment that is unique and new that I'm actually doing for myself, as well as, like actually trying to get a massage in every so often, or, finding more time to, spend with friends. And because as you get older, everyone's lives get so busy, whether it's with their work or everyone's having babies or getting married, and you start to build these little silos. It's sometimes harder to connect with folks and friends, and so I'm trying to make it more a deliberate effort to connect with friends more often, at least on a monthly basis. So that's my self-care routine. It's a work in progress, but we're going
Always
for it.
work in progress. So, and it's not easy. And I think, it's just important to try and find some ways to, put yourself first is,
Mhm.
especially, part of the reason I'm having everyone on the show say this is because there's all different ways that you can look at what your self-care is. And I think, having a coach is a great form of self-care, because you often just need someone who is an outside viewer to help you see the forest for the trees. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's major key.
Major keys.
So, last question, and well, and it's our special thing for this series is whether you have a give or an ask. So, something you'd like to offer to the audience, to the universe, or ask of the universe or the audience. I feel like you have a conference coming up, so I feel like I kind of know what yours is going to be. But go ahead.
I'd like to offer definitely, the I'll a special savings on our conference of 25% off. If you make it before Thursday and you're in New York City, right across from Madison Square Garden in Pavilion, we'll have the greatest speakers from all different parts of expertise within the technology or scaling your business to teach you what it really means to get off the ground and stay in business and scale your actual enterprise. And so it'll be a lot of fun. There's a pitch competition being sponsored by Shea Moisture. There's all types of brands and companies from Goldman to Microsoft to Samsung that will be there that you can connect with and bond with. It's an incredible 3 days. So definitely at least join us for the last one if you're not able to take off work on Saturday. Our summit will allow you to engage in an experience without having to, leave your job, your 9 to 5. If you are. And also this year we have a unique track that's focused on folks who have side hustles or want to learn how to build out their companies. And so I definitely offer that to your audience. And I'll give the code to you after. as
Great. I'll drop it in the show notes.
okay.
Awesome. And I will co-sign that, see, that it is a phenomenal conference and it is not just for Black women. It's open to all. And it is a 3 days that lifts your spirit and your soul, whether you're thinking about running a business, whether you have a business, whether you've got a side hustle. I mean, the connections that people make and the magic that happens over those 3 days, I've been an honor to witness that you guys have gone from being 30 people in Google to over 1,000 last year, so even more this year. So it's really, if you want something done, ask a Black woman. um,
Yes. It's the
I
year of Black women
all
anyway.
to come. I will be there in some shape or form at some point during the week. I think you're making me do stuff every day, but okay.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. We're gonna put you to good use.
oh,
Thank you.
I know. Every year it happens. Um, But yeah, but it's also, like I said, I am so thrilled you were able to take some time in between getting ready for the conference to have a chat with me and for 29 Days of Magic. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so special to be amongst these great women and I'm sure some phenomenal men. So really, really excited. Thank you so much for including me.
Awesome. And that is our show.